What's up, y'all? Today is the 1st of June, 2025. Yeah, already. I feel like that's kind of how it is, right? We feel like the year just goes flying by, but the days take so long sometimes. It's very strange that it's already that time of year, if I were to be saying it. But my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. This is our podcast, In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, where we have deep discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. I'll do it as I do, all right? I'll run through each of the four sides of our company. I'll talk about where clothing sits, and then we'll get into the discussion. This episode is 128, titled, You Had Your Chance. Yikes, sounds harsh, huh? I know. You're gonna hear about it if you stick around, okay? So one time, this is Red the guitar. I had a little guitar, my last one, that was named Frank because it was kind of Frankensteined together. It was a flat fretboard guitar that I custom radiused, and anyway, I did this freestyle and I titled it Fishing Boat. And I'll play a little bit of it, kind of like freestyle-ish in itself, right? Not try to do it the same exact way that I did the first time, but yeah, just, I play a little bit normally on the guitar for the intros of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. So I'll try to get through some of what this kind of is and, what it started out as, okay? But it was something like, I jumped aboard the fishing boat, I jumped aboard the sea, I jumped aboard the fishing boat and he came home with me. And I jumped aboard the fishing boat, jumped aboard the waves, I jumped aboard the fishing boat, and that's where I was saved. Something like that. Yeah, I titled it, like I said, Fishing Boat. In the Holy Bible, right, the story of Simon, who was then named Peter afterward, because God changes names, actually. That happens throughout the scripture, really. But yeah, Simon Peter, the fisherman, he met Jesus Christ, like actually literally in the flesh when God was here 2,000 years ago, give or take, right, from today's date. And he met him on his fishing boat. Peter was a fisherman, Simon at the time, right? And then Jesus Christ, preached a sermon, basically, using his boat and the area there, on the shore. And then he said that he's going to make Simon Peter a fisher of men, because he's a fisherman, and he would fish for food and to sell and to make his money. But Jesus Christ, he taught him the truth, right? The gospel, the good news, as it's translated into English. And then he, being Simon Peter, right, went out and preached the gospel and fished for men, right? Brought people in, like you fish and you reel people in. Well, you reel fish in normally when you're fishing, but for people, we're gathering Israel, right? The lost tribes of Israel, the lost descendants of our forefathers, if you will, right? Fishing for men, gathering people, bringing people back to truth, to God himself, the one and only God that there is, Jesus Christ. And so that's what I do here on In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Yeah, truly, that's the point of this podcast. And so that's kind of what that freestyle is just metaphorically, in a sense, jumping aboard a fishing boat where your life gets changed when you don't know what's going to happen, and then it does. And we never know the extent of what's going to happen when we try to do all that we can to really actually serve Jesus Christ. And it blows our minds as disciples of his. I'm speaking out of personal experience, and many people across the earth will tell you the same thing, so, about their own experience, right? So here we are, yeah. We have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ here, and it's a gift, if I'm saying it, to me personally, and I say things that people can get stuff from here. Okay, so there you go. And Little Red, the guitar here, man, he's a really good guitar, actually. Little 3/4 size Johnson JG610N with a custom. No, there's no custom radius on him. He came with one, but steel strings are no longer on him. I say I do crazy things with nylon strings because I do, and this is Little Red, the guitar. Little Red, the guitar, and I love it. Guitar in general. I'm a guitarist, as you can tell. That was played by me. Both of those little samples of music that came from the strings of this here instrument during this. Okay, holy cow! But yeah, we have 4 sides to us, as in the Image Clothing Company, and one of our other fourths is our main side. We address the anatomy of the human body, and we come at it through clothing. Because we have to, okay? The human body has a center line, the sternum, the spine, the nose, the trachea, the jaw, and the jaw naturally stabilizes our entire body. So being just human beings on Earth's gravity, we have to stay atop it, okay? And our feet oppose the center line, gripping arches inward. The human body could only ever work one way. There's only one way the human body could ever work, as I say, because there is. It's just a mechanical machine placed onto a rock in space. And check this out. So, yes, our bodies can only work one way. And the way that our bodies work is by keeping clothing centered. So, in the Image Clothing Company clothing, will always stay centered. It will fit correct. Be made from 100% natural materials. And that's how we allow the body to work. And that's our key phrase for this side of the company that I'm now talking about, which is our main side. I think Red's out of tune. But allowing, keyword, the human body to work is the only thing we can do, actually. You can't train the human body despite popular belief. Don't believe in anything, though, right? Believe it or not, don't. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Things are just what they are. And the body is just about its neutrals, okay? The body's about a neutral position in every joint. I was going to bring a coconut into this episode. That's so cool. I bought a coconut yesterday, and I drank it, the water from it. And then I've been eating the meat a little bit, that's what they call the flesh of the coconut. Wow. And I'm vegetarian. But, also putting it into water is why I was going to bring it into this episode, because I talk about hydration. One of the things that is such a misconception of the human being, a misunderstanding, misconstrued the ideas and the truth of the things that we can't decide because we didn't design the human body. But I talk about just putting something in our water, right? Plain water doesn't hydrate you. It just goes right through your body. I talk about just putting something in our water so that the body has something to hold on to, because the molecules of the water have what's called adhesion, and they adhere to other things placed into them. So even just placing some of the flesh of the coconut in a water container and letting it mix with the water, because I was thinking you can buy one coconut, drink all the water out of it, and then, take little pieces of all the flesh of that coconut and place it into containers of water throughout like a whole week, right? 10, 15 plus containers of like maybe 16-ounce water bottles or something. And then you've got hydration, just like that, for the price of maybe like one hydrating drink, which usually has just unnatural things in it anyway, right? So yeah, that's why I mentioned that, but I didn't bring it down. It's in the refrigerator upstairs in this house. But we're back to this, okay? Hydration is one of the things, but standing, walking, eating, sleeping, sitting, naturally, as a human being, we discuss these things because we just gotta know how the body works, bro. Everyone's got one, and a lot of us just have no idea. Like me, myself, Evan Strong, the founder of In The Image Clothing Company, until I was 24. I started to really unpack these things and really learn about these things out of personal experience firsthand, okay? First foot, too. The hand is essentially the shoulder, as the feet are essentially the hips, okay? So, another fourth of us is In The Image Clothing Company Music, and I show how to size and set up guitars. Check this out. Neutral wrist, straight out from the pinky finger. Those of you in visual plus audio, which is one of the forms of viewing In The Image Clothing Company podcast. You can also just listen in audio only, but look at my neutral wrists here. Okay, this is a 3/4 size guitar. And I have it capoed on the 5th fret, which is about halfway up the neck, okay? 12 frets to the body. So 6 would be halfway, but it's close, okay? This is a ukulele now, essentially. Okay? Yeah, all right? Oh, shoot. I love it. Now, what I'm saying is, I play music and I make music, and I show how to size up a guitar and set up a guitar to not alter your body while you do it. On In The Image Clothing Company Music, okay? Another fourth of us is In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. I used to say pretty often when I'd say something like bold, under In The Image Clothing Company podcast, and I'm gonna sit on that for a second, and I'd sit there like that, and I did it right there because, as I've been saying, me, myself, and I, all three of us, but then other people as well probably, are going to be so shocked on how how huge In The Image Clothing Company Poodles actually ends up being, as far as like the amount of what In The Image Clothing Company is that resides on that fourth of the company, okay? It's gonna be huge. I don't take my word for it. Don't believe me, as I say, truly don't, but wait and see. It's gonna be huge, okay? So we specialize in standard size poodles, purebred. We advocate for proper breeding because we will have a breeding program where we breed standard poodles, okay? Registered through the American Kennel Club, proper dogs. But we do a lot of advocating for other things as well. Being a good owner of dogs, proper ownership, okay? Debunking myths about dogs and why they don't listen and why they're behaving ways that they are. Giving owners context and, teaching them how to be an owner of a dog. A lot of people just don't know what they're doing, okay? I'm not trying to say that I'm better, but I'm saying that I do have an understanding of the things that I have an understanding of. And I understand things in depth when I dive into things. Check that out. Deep dive. That's what I say we do here on In The Image Clothing Company podcast, is have deep dive discussions. Now, letting dogs stay natural is what we do on In The Image Clothing Company Poodles through rehydrating dehydrated dog food. Okay, kibble, it's unnatural. Flooring, slippery, flat, unnatural. Unnatural materials and toys and accessories for dogs, okay, as well. But yeah, dog products as well as In The Image Clothing Company clothing, always on InTheImageClothingCompany.com. But then, in addition to, good dog products like that, same intent behind human being clothing, right? Yeah, and that's big too. That's what I'm saying. It's gonna be really crazy. Events, okay? Poodle parade events under In The Image Clothing Company Poodles. Purebred poodles of any size, poodle mixes of any size, allowed to come. No other dog breeds, sorry, but it's our events. There's a lot of reasons that we do that, okay? But it'll be fun, okay? The state of Utah, the United States of America, a lot of beautiful, diverse terrain outside. We'll get together for hikes or walks or just hang out at parks with dogs, talking about dogs and health of dogs, breeding of dogs, natural dogs, and just also, letting them have a good time and us as the owners having a good time as well, okay? All the events that we do, though, I mean, it's crazy. I don't want to, try to sound like I'm making some claims. It just won't happen, but this is just how it's going to be. We're going to do a lot of cool stuff, okay, through In The Image Clothing Company, more than just videos, more than just clothing products and dog products and puppies themselves, but events, man, and a lot of things. There's so much advocating we do, so much, man, truly, already, and then we'll just grow as we do, right? I've set this up in a way, well, yeah, yes, yes, I've set this up in a way, it hits me, that we're not spreading ourselves thin, because I say we're going to do so much, and we really will, and already do, and the things that this company is just the things that I would naturally do in my life anyway. So we're going to have a lot of cool stuff. And that's the thing is all the events that we have, we're not doing them just for the sake of advertising. And we're not doing them just for content, right? All these things that we're doing it because it's just a lifestyle, just hanging out with poodles at fun places. And when I get together for the main side of In The Image Clothing Company events, and I talk to people about their bodies, because I know the human body in depth. And, just how to, allow the body to work, and free modifications in clothing, and In The Image Clothing Company, and just, what we are and everything. These events are not just some type of, publicity type of thing, right? No. We're a community here. We're a familial place, a place where we all have a body, even our dogs. And so we just talk about it. We discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ. We change lives, truly. I mean, my life has been changed, and it's been documented since the founding of In The Image Clothing Company, okay? My physical body has changed. And through that, all that comes with that we talk about. So yeah, our events are not and never will be business. They're community. And that's why we're a company, not a business, I mean, and really we're more of a community than a company even, right? As I've been saying since the very founding launch video on the 23rd of September, 2024, okay? So there you go. That's a little bit of each fourth of our company. And it's exciting, man. And the cool thing is, doing everything through video like we do, even if you don't actually end up with one of our poodle puppies, but you just like to watch cool videos about cute dogs, or you want to learn more about, the raising of puppies. We're going to do all that we can do to film each litter that gets born, right? And that's cool. That's a cool thing that a lot of people just don't see otherwise. And, we just give a lot of context on things in a lot of ways. And I talk about things so deeply and thoroughly. And we have long videos. And if you don't want to sit through them, that's up to you. But if you do sit through them, I might sneeze. You're going to get things from them no matter what, okay? So, there you go. Clothing for everybody has to sit in the same location. If you're a man or a woman, or if you're tall or short, if you're skinny or fat, if you're from any age or any part of the earth. Although, when I say from any age, I just mean no matter what age you are, but any time period as well, yeah. The human body is just what it is, and it can't be restricted. Pants have to be entirely above the hips. So there's no restriction to the hips. Slightly higher in the front than the rear for the waistband angle. Our core muscles are only there to always work, as every part of the body, because it can only ever work activated as a whole. Anywhere any of the body goes, the rest of it comes. Okay? That's how we just allow that to happen. Tops that we wear have seams that are on top of our shoulders that need to sit evenly behind the peak of our shoulders. The shoulders only ever work behind the head, and they follow shoulder seams. Okay? On the main side of In The Image Clothing Company, there's videos about that, okay? Shoulders follow shoulder seams. Shoulders naturally sit behind the head. Yeah. Tops are like a cage for the shoulders. Yeah, okay. Lots of things. Got a lot of videos. We've got 220 videos on the main side of In The Image Clothing Company alone. So, yeah, bro. The edge seams of our shoulders, as you can see mine here, if you're watching in visual plus audio of In The Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 128, I'm almost certain that's the number of this one. Yeah. Right at the very edges of our shoulders, right? Because they got to be right where the functionality is. Otherwise, it just can't function. The joint of the shoulder. It's a ball and capsule joint, bro. It's got a lot going into it. A deltoid, a tricep, a bicep. What do we want to get into, bro? Let's talk about it. I'll talk about it. So I really know the anatomy, all right? The latissimus dorsi comes up from the pelvis and the rear all the way to the rear of the upper arm. The upper trapezius, the mid trapezius, the lower trapezius, the rotator cuff, the scapula, which is the big bones on the back of our shoulders, are basically just the shoulders. Subacromial shoulder impingement, you might have been told by your doctors if you have shoulder pain. No, it's your clothing. Truth, okay? Yeah, the pectorals go into the shoulders. There's a lot of stuff going on, brother. And with all that, we place clothing on our bodies. There's only one way you can do it, and there's only one way the human body could ever work, all right? Neutral collarbone angle, neutral height for the shoulders, which means neutral contraction of the upper trapezius, okay? Yeah. Internal and external rotation both happen at the shoulder capsule, traveling down to the hand, which I said is essentially the shoulder, okay? If our hands are altered, the shoulders will be as well. On the main side of the Image Clothing Company, there's a video titled Keeping Hands the Same Size, and we have to because otherwise our shoulders will never be even, and if our shoulders aren't even connecting into the spine with muscles like the trapezius and the pectorals, then our body will be damaged. Wow. This is like In the Image Clothing Company Podcast 2.0. This is crazy. I love it. All right, there you go. Okay, so great. Now let's talk about our two prerequisites. Removing tags. If there's tags in clothing, they got to be taken out, brother. They're either just causing a physical gap, changing your body's skeletal system's only working position, which is what the body's about, because the fat content changes and so does the muscle mass. But really, the human body's just about a normal position, and all the joints, neutral, normal, and natural, are all synonyms for the human being. Holy cow. I love this. Secondly, we, tie shoes and lace them as human beings. In the Image Clothing Company podcast is where we're at. Holy, dude, this is awesome. I love it. But yeah, remove the tags, okay, from everything, even the shoes. At least put slits into the ones in the shoes. You know, heat shrunk on tags like that. You don't want to ruin the material of the tongue of your shoe or wherever they're placed inside. But do what you can to get texture to the tag so that your muscles can activate. Because that's the other thing that happens. If it's not about a position change, like these ones that I'm saying here, it's musculature won't be able to activate. And the body is only one, and it's all supposed to work together, or else parts of it can't, because there's no compensation that can happen within something that's never apart from itself, okay? Yeah, everything has to play its role, brother. Yeah, okay. In the Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, found wherever you find us, is what we title the only way you can weave a rope across the top of the human foot without altering it, okay? It's just a rope, and there's just mechanics to the feet, and there can't be a clash there. We have to tie shoes evenly over toward the inside, okay? The right foot, you tie over toward the center line. The left foot, you tie over toward the center line as well, because there's two sides to the human body. No opinion. But I just went over the anatomy in such depth in just a few minutes, truly, of, at least the upper part of the body, and there's just only one way it could work. Ever. Okay, so there you go. It's just a mechanical machine placed on a rock in space. So, yeah, let's get into this. The whole title of this is... I'm not only going to say partial title, I'm going to say the whole title. Isn't that something? Okay. You had your chance, brother. So, it's funny because sometimes I'm just like all over the place with the mood, And I love it. So, here we go. I like this, okay? God is the God of all, okay? Jesus Christ is not just like some man-made religion type of thing you want to try to worship and it doesn't work. We're just talking about the truth of all things. We're talking about God. We're talking about, hey, we're on an earth, and how did this happen? You think two big old rocks came and slammed together, and all of a sudden the brain is the most complex thing in the universe? No. God designed it all. That's not my opinion. I'm not sitting here trying to preach some religion to you, but if you read the Bible, if you read the Book of Mormon, if you know who Jesus Christ really is and get to know him is what I mean, like, regardless of where you're at now, if you get to know him, yeah, it's not a religion. No opinion. And, I was in this, devotional is what we call it in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. A couple years ago, right around there. Yeah, a couple years ago. And yes, maybe 2.5 years ago, maybe. This guy was talking about this story that, there was somebody who was talking to, and they didn't know anything about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and he was talking to him, as I said, about it. And the dude asked him, well, what's the difference between these other religions and yours? And what's the difference between all these other philosophies and yours? And the guy said, well, this one's true. And that's the case. And anybody could say that about anything and try to claim whatever, okay? But that's why we have the titles that we do. Believe it or not, don't. In the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? One of our episodes. And we say things like this all the time. I say we, but it's me. This been saying any of the words in any of the In the Image Clothing Company podcasts episode numbers up until today's date, which there's 127 before this one. So we've got quite a few under our belt, if you will. Although don't keep things under your belt. Don't keep things in your pockets. Don't even have belt loops on your pants because your shirt tail will catch on it and take your shoulders with it. But yeah, drawstrings, the slipped, lap knot. Okay, loop the single side in toward the center. Everything goes to the center side, centered line of the human being all the time. Okay, I love it. Okay, I love it. And I'm going to say it a third time because I really do love it. But I will continue what I was saying. Anybody can claim anything, bro, but if it's not true, it's not true. Okay, episode 2 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Truth is truth, and it is. There's no dispute, no opinion. Nobody decided it, but it just is what it is, right? Truth is like tangible things. Truth is like, this. What I did there was clap my hands together, and that just happened. That's truth, right? Truth is a literal, real, actual, just things as they are. No opinion, no perception, no perspective, no interpretation. Just this thing is this thing, that thing's that thing, and that one's that thing. And that's just what they are because they're right there. That's it. And that's truth. There's no opinion to truth. Nobody decides it. Nobody can. I can't change it. I can't decide it. We didn't design it. We can't decide it. An episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. I talked about the earth in that episode. All right, and God designed it. So same with the human being, bro. And everything, literally everything that there is to experience in this life for everybody, always. So the big thing is, yeah, things are just what they are. Here's the thing. The reason the title is You Had Your Chance, okay, episode 128 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, is because God is the God of forgiveness. He's the, hey, I messed up, I'm sorry, and he forgives us, times 5,000. And then maybe like 4 billion on top of that, multiplied by infinity. Because he'll forgive us every time. And that's not an excuse, like, that doesn't give us the right to just like keep doing things wrong without trying not to. But the whole point is we're just going to keep messing up in this life. And in a lot of cases, it's actually really good to mess up. That's where we, oh, shoot. That's where we learn. I love Moana by Disney. The second one is beautiful as well. There's that song in it that there's something like, failure, then learning, then death. Yeah, that's how it goes. It talks about that. Like, that's all there is in life, right? And that's the case. That's how we grow and move forward and learn, is by messing up. And so God is not a God of you had your chance and sorry, but he'll forgive us every time. And we don't deserve that. But I do want to focus on this for at least a little bit here. There's certain things in our life where, man, certain people really is what it is, that we've given chance after chance after chance, and they don't change. They don't treat us better. They don't, own up to their mistakes. They lie to us. They, just shut us out, these things. And it really does come a point where we can very rightfully say, like, you had your chance, and then we're done. trying to cater to them, or trying to like let them back into our lives. And this is the whole thing is God does command us to forgive always. Okay? He has perfect forgiveness, and we're really commanded to become like him, meaning strive to get closer to him in this life. That's what I say, right? The whole point of life is just getting closer to Jesus Christ. There's no end goal. There's no certain amount of children to have, certain amount of money to acquire, certain amount of lives to touch or change, or, whatever you could say, because everybody's life is different. Some people live like 5 years total. Some people die minutes after they're born. Some people die before they even get born. Some people live 110 years. And some people start their life at, right. We can go wherever we could go with the hypotheticals. I just don't want to get off course because this is a beautiful episode for the sake of what the title is. And if I just start like going down a rabbit hole of talking about something that's not what the title is, then we might run out of storage space, which does happen, has at least in the past episodes of the Image Clothing Company podcast. But that's the whole point, is getting closer to Jesus Christ in this life. And yes, he does want us to strive to be, wow, hear this correct, but perfect. Taken with a little bit of context on, the fact that we will never be in this life. That's why we have Jesus Christ's atoning power and redemption power and resurrection power, and he died on the cross for us and got resurrected 3 days later so that we could then be as well through his example. I mean, he really just went before us and did what he wants us to do, and we'll do it after him. Although, minus a lot of things that we can't live up to, and one of those is living a perfectly sinless life, which is what he did, But there are a lot of things, though, where situations come up and it is just time to be done, right? There is a very distinct separation between forgiving somebody and then letting somebody continually do things to you that are damaging, sinful, evil, wrong, right? Universal. As in, not like somebody thinks you're doing something you shouldn't, but something that's just actually like, because God says so, because we're all children of God and we're all equals, like not okay to do to another human being. There's a difference between forgiving people and then, just continuing to let people wrong you. There's kind of like a, hey, I forgive you, but here's the boot, and you like drop kick them off into, somewhere that's not where you are. And you never talk to them again. But it's having full forgiveness in your heart at the same time. That really is how it needs to be sometimes. And so that's what I mean when the, where the title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast episode 128 comes in. You had your chance, because we can still fully forgive people while entirely removing them from the rest of our time on this earth, and having no contact with them ever again, because that's actually the best thing in some cases. And, yeah, I'm going to say this, man. There is an end of this that needs to be talked about where, well, for the sake of what this episode is, there's certain things you just can't take back, man. Meaning anything you've ever done, right? That's how I can say it so bold. Condemn me for what I have said, or condemn me for what I have done. Meaning you can say whatever you want on something I did in the past, but why? You're wasting your breath. You're just being judgmental, and neither of us can change it, right? So you're the one sinning at that point, and I've already repented for it because it's back there, right? Holy. So, yeah, it's kind of like dropping your hat off the back of a boat going like 45 miles an hour across the water, and it sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and you're not getting that hat back, like, not only that, but an orca thought it was something else and they ate it, and so now the hat's just like gone anyway. Like, I just want it to be like, the hat's gone, right? It's in the past is what I mean. They're never going back. And some people are trying to get you to go back and like change things in the past. You just can't, right? The past is the past. It doesn't exist. That's real. And so here's the cool thing about that though, man, is some people you can literally just say, dude, you had your chance. They treat you terrible all your life and you're just trying to be a good person to them and they're never gonna like make up for it. Some people try to do that. They try to make up for things they did in the past. No, it's not gonna happen. You can't. There's only moving forward from this point on. Yeah. We live in one eternal round, okay? Which is actually an episode title of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Meaning we live in the now. There's no future. You can prepare for the future all you want, but it's not there until it's now. And there's no past, as we just established. It literally doesn't exist. There's no philosophy to it or whatever or opinion. That's really how it is. It doesn't exist. You spend your whole life preparing for something 40 years down the road, and you die 39 years from now, and it doesn't even happen, right? There's no such thing as the future. Literally, actually, like factually, if you want to get all like technical with the words and you're like a scientist, right? I don't know. There's no such thing as the future. What I'm saying, bro, is there's also no such thing as the past. And that's not only what I'm saying, but I just said that. Wait. What did he just say? That contradicts itself. Anyway, you can't actually, go back on something. You can't make up for something. And so I've had a lot of experiences in my life where, by no means am I anywhere near perfect and never will be in this life. Again, that's the point of this life, is to mess up. Man, talk about Moana, brother. I'm going to say this real quick. Moana's just trying to be the perfect daughter, right? What does she say? She says, I wish I could be the perfect daughter, but I come back to the water, no matter how hard I try. Yeah, that's a song in Moana, the first one. Well, I was just thinking about that the other day, where sometimes we just get led to things, man, and we can't be what other people want us to be. I did a song one time, I had a freestyle, and it was something like, I'm sorry, but I can't just be the person that you want me to be, but I can be myself if I need. I don't know where I played it on the guitar, like, where it was capoed or even what chords I was in, but I'd play it right now if I knew, because it was cool. But, people try to get us to be what they want us to be a lot of the time in our lives, and Moana has such beautiful messages in it, man, the movie by Disney. So, that's where that song came from, okay? Where she's trying to be a perfect daughter, but, her parents are trying to get her to do something that she doesn't want to do, and it just doesn't feel right to her, and then she just keeps coming back to the water, and then she ends up, doing what she ends up doing. Watch the movie. I'm not going to give it away, I guess, right? But anyway, the point is, with the past, bro, is it doesn't exist. A lot of people, bro, have treated me in ways and in times where it's like not cool, bro. And I was trying to do all I could to be really, a kind, respectful person with them. And yikes, right? There's only so much you can do before it's like, man, I mean, an example is, shoot, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I guess I'm driving this thing, so I'm saying it as it is. I'm not trying to like be mean or call people out, but I'm just using personal real life stories as examples. Like growing up, man, my sister always pushing me out, and there's a level of that that's just we were both struggling in the household we were with our dad and stuff, right? And she was a teenager and I was just a kid, but there was only the two of us, and I was always trying to get to spend time with her. I was trying to hang out with her, and she'd lock me out of her room. She'd lock me out of the house. She'd make fun of me, bully me, pick on me physically sometimes, in ways. And again, I'm not trying to say like I got some terrible hard feelings and I never could have like a good relationship with her, because that's not at all what this is about. But I'm just saying, it gets to a point where it's like, man, I was always trying to be nice, and especially being a little brother, it's like you try to kind of go over the top to almost be, like I was just singing those songs about, like what she wants me to be, so that maybe she would accept me for something, Accept me for something. That's how it came out. Yeah, see that? Because that's where it comes from. That's in my heart. That's how I felt. Like, accept me for something. Like, you know. And it gets to a point where it's like, all right, you had your chance, because nowadays it's like I just am who I am, and, and I think she kind of realizes how terrible she treated me as a kid. And what I mean by you had your chance in that situation is I tried to do everything I could to like, have a relationship with my only sibling. Yeah, I just kept trying and trying and trying. It's like, man, I don't want to just keep trying, like doing things that are inauthentic to try to, have a relationship with you. You had your chance, kind of thing, and I mean, just is what it is, and there's a lot of things like that, man. A lot of relationships, and there's some stuff in my life, dude, where like, oh, shoot, I just don't want this to sound like any kind of egoic way, but I want that if you can hear this how I'm saying it, that'd be ideal. As I've said since the founding of In the Image Clothing Company, hear what we're saying, not what you're hearing. I've only said what I've said, not what you try to interpret. That is false. Whatever your interpretations are, there's only what I've said, okay? And condemn me for it, by all means. Truly, I mean, right? What am I gonna do? Can't take it back. I can't make up for it, right? You had your chance. I had my chance to say it right the first time. If I didn't, cool. There's another one of those I'm gonna sit on it for a second kind of things, all right? But no, seriously, I mean, I really have had this happen many times where, yikes. I'm not trying to sound any kind of way. I just mean this as true stories of relating to what I'm saying here and why I'm making this podcast episode, context on this as it is. There's been people in my life, women, okay, where like I tried to ask them on a date or I tried to just like hang out with them or whatever, like meaning just spend time with them, right? And be, just there naturally and they kind of didn't give me the time of day at first. And then some time goes by and then they start to see and realize who I am and then all of a sudden they're like trying to hang around me and that's when it's like that whole like you had your chance, like you judged me first off. And then now that you're seeing something that maybe like, oh, maybe this guy is somebody cool to hang out with, or maybe like maybe they actually ended up thinking like I was attractive or whatever. Or, what? I'm not trying to be like egoic, and I don't date, by the way. I've been on like around 8 dates in my life. I'm 25 years old. I'm not nervous to like date for the sake of like afraid to talk to women. I don't play the game. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled, You Don't Need a Girlfriend If You Won't Have a Wife, right? And it went on the other end as well with you don't need a boyfriend if you won't have a husband for the women out there, right? As well. But what I'm saying though is that's where the phrase comes in. It's like you had your chance. I mean, if you're claiming you like me now because you see something that I did, or you see that other people think of me in this way or that way or whatever, no, now you're doing that as some kind of like ego trip, where it's like an image thing, and if you don't like me for who I am, then leave, right? Then you had your chance, literally. Actually, right? For everybody, it's not like anybody specific is like so high and mighty that all the people are after them. No, it's just anybody. I mean, we can't be judging people, and we all do it. Yeah, but, right? I mean, I think, right, it's like those classic things that people who have, done some pretty big things in life talk about where they're like, yeah, nobody really cared or liked me or saw anything about me or even like gave me the time of day when I was, basically a nobody. Right, I mean, we're all nobodies, but right, seeing it as the story here, but then it's like they become famous or they do something really big or impactful, and now it's like everybody's just wanting to be their friend. All the people are, the girls are trying to date them if it's a dude, or all the guys are after him if it's some girl who's like a pop star now, but she was just like the nerdy girl in chemistry class in high school. It's like you had your chance. I mean, we're always the same person. Gosh, man, Moana, bro, that movie. Yeah. God. Yeah, I mean, there's so many messages in that movie that are just beautiful. I love it so much. Moana by Disney, bro. But, I talk about that, how we don't get to decide who we are. We don't change who we are. It's not up to us. And we're always still the same person, regardless of if you got the $1 billion and all of a sudden now the girls think you're hot, for the big businessman, or whatever. It's like, no, you had your chance, because you were in high school and you were the kid that was sitting there with the frogs in biology. And the same girls that are now like drooling over your Bentley, which is just a very expensive car brand, were like making fun of you for spending time after school in the lab with the frogs. I mean, see what I mean? It's like you had your chance. Like, get out of here. And that's why I started this off by saying God is the God of infinite chances. Because, yeah, because He is. But what I really wanted to focus on in this episode is what I'm saying, about kind of on the good end of there are very much justifiable times. I don't mean to make this all showy. I'm looking at this photograph of I keep calling it a photograph. It's technically like a painting or whatever it is, drawing, but of Jesus Christ, because I do that, and that's why it's here in my room, regardless of if I'm ever making a podcast episode or what. I mean, there's been countless nights in the past about 2 years. How long I've had this? Well, I got it right around Christmas 2.5 years ago. Now, I mean, we're on the 6th month, right? It's June, so 2.5 years I've had this, give or take. And so many nights I just sit here for hours on the edge of this bed, about a year and a half to 2.5 years ago, and I just sit here and look at that photograph painting, okay, and just, pray and talk to God. And so during In the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes, sometimes I'll just stare at this painting when I say stuff that's real. But there are some very, very truly, properly justifiable, right, in a good way, meaning like, yes, it's right to in times. There's moments like that where it's good to put that phrase in our lives and to kind of put our foot down and say, you had your chance, with people. Because of what I was saying earlier, because that's not the opposite of forgiveness, like cutting somebody out of your life. No, it's a necessary thing, actually, at times. Something we get told by God to do with certain people, actually. Because often on our ends, we give people more chances than we should. Yeah, there's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Perfect Father. It's one of the first ones, under number 10. I mean, I think it might be the 4th one. And I talked about how my dad was evil to me growing up. And it's like this, right? You had your chance, I mean, my whole time living with my dad, I was 22 when I finally, like, stopped living with my dad, is how I'm going to word it right now, right? Yeah. All I ever wanted to do was help him, and yeah, I got drained doing that, and it wasn't my job, and he's not going to change if he's not going to change, and he's not going to change. And I'm not like putting that on him. It's just the case, right? So everybody can change if they're willing, but that's what I mean is, right? Not trying to speak for another human being, but he's just not willing to do what he needs to do to change. And it's one of those things, one of those moments where it's actually right to have that phrase be said. You had your chance, I mean, now I haven't talked to my dad or had any contact with him whatsoever in, like, well, easily over a year at least. All right. And I mean, just because I'm not supposed to be interacting with someone who's going to treat me the way that he treats me. Right. And you're not supposed to be interacting with people who are going to treat you bad, no matter who you are, because we're human beings. We're supposed to be treated well, we're supposed to, that's the golden rule. That's a commandment. Treat others how you want to be treated. And the things that my dad did and said to me growing up, something that if I were to do to him, right, he'd tell me like how terrible I was, but yet, right, just hypocrisy. So, yeah, a lot of times in life, man, people just have the chances, and we're only supposed to give them those. And no more, right? gosh, and that's crazy. It's crazy because it's so humbling to me, man. Because that's what I did actually my whole life with my dad. You know, I was just trying to help him, trying to please him, trying to do everything I could for him, and it was that, you know, give and take on one end. I'd give and give and give and give, and he'd take and take and take and take and not give anything. And so, you know, it took a lot to actually get out of that situation. And yeah, right, he had his chance. So things just happen like this, man. I mean, people come back. Well, it's like there's that movie by Marvel, right? The MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it's the second Iron Man movie they made. If it's not that one, it's one of the Iron Man movies by Marvel, okay? That's now owned by Disney, as far as I'm aware. And, you know, there was that dude who was talking to Tony Stark, who's Iron Man, right? Decades before, like, the movie timeline was, right? But they did, like, a flashback at the beginning, and Tony didn't give him the time of day at all. And then decades later, the dude comes back, and now all of a sudden he's like this, like, you know, kind of like a different person in a sense, but just meaning like a lot had happened between there and, you know, man. And the dude who Tony didn't give the time of day to, he's kind of just like, Tony, you had your chance, bro, you know, but the dude actually ended up becoming like pretty evil. So like, it's not quite like directly what I'm trying to say with what this episode is about, but kind of, you know, I mean, just meaning you never know who you're talking to, you know. We were in the church building, right? Just on one of these times that I was a few months ago, and one of my friends' boyfriend at the time, you know, I had like kind of just met him, and I got to talking with him, and I could tell he was a little bit, you know, judgmental toward me because I'm different, dude, and I don't, you know, I don't ever, you know. I'm never shocked, I guess, when people judge me because I've just been different my whole life. That doesn't ever make it okay for anybody to judge anybody, but I am very, very different. That's why I say unorthodox and untraditional, right? Like when I make music, it's yeah, right, very unique. I always have been, and you know, I mean, again, as I've said before, in Scripture, it literally says disciples of Jesus Christ are a strange and peculiar people because we're in the world, but we're not of the world, right? We're a little bit different, a little bit weird because we follow a God who is paradoxical, which means backward, right? The gospel of Jesus Christ is a very backward thing compared to what the world would teach. But I knew this guy was judging me a little bit, you know, not like trying to be mean necessarily, but he just kind of was like turning up his nose at me, sort of, right? And he was. And, you know, we sat there and got talking, and, you know, anyway, what he ended up saying was like, yeah, you never know who you're sitting right next to. And I'm like, yeah, so don't judge, you know what I mean? I didn't say that, but that's what it's about, you know? It's like, well, just don't judge, right? A lot of times we just have no idea who people really are. And that's the thing, you know, is one thing I love personally about In the Image Clothing Company on all four sides, but especially the podcast here, In the Image Clothing Company podcast, because I just sit here and I speak so much. And it's not like so structured where I'm just sticking around one specific anatomy topic, for example, or one specific thing about dogs on In the Image Clothing Company poodles, right? But I do just so much talking here, and it's as I say, raw and real and blunt and bold, right? In the Image Clothing Company, as real as it gets, truly. Yeah, really, actually, this is what I'm saying. Like, listen to me talk right now. Tell me it's not as real as it gets. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I love it. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it is because I love it personally. You get to see there's so many different sides to me. You meaning anybody. Meaning, I'm not hiding anymore because my dad was an evil man. Yeah, he is who he is. In my life, he was very evil to me. We'll say it like that. And I always, you know, would hide as a kid. That's what I developed as a coping mechanism, you know, was not telling the full truth, you know, even though I didn't like lies. And, you know, pretending I was who I wasn't. Check that out. Things are just what they are, right? Golly. No wonder I was living in hell. Truly, yeah. because I was pretending to be something to please somebody else who never would have accepted me no matter what. Wow, truth. And that's hell. I mean, that's literal hell, actually, not figuratively. I mean, hell is just the world. Yeah, read scriptures, dude. It'll change your life. Okay, Jesus Christ will change your life. His words through the scriptures you read, right, are what's changing your life if you read scriptures. Yeah, going to church doesn't change your life. Jesus Christ, who we worship when we go to church, changes our lives, right? That's needed to be said. Really, it's needed to be understood if you don't. And so, there you go. Now, I'll say this, okay? Sometimes we just have no idea. And since you can see so many different sides to me on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, it's good because it gives you that little bit of contacts, right? So you can see clearer, right? Oh my gosh. I love that. But context, I love the word. I say it often. I really have. You know, where sometimes you might see somebody on a day where they're not really how they would be on another day because there's a dynamic to a human being when they're healthy and balanced, okay, and authentic, which is the only thing that you actually can be. Otherwise, you're pretending, which I've done way too much. Not good. Damaging to me, okay? It's terrible. And so, you know, you might interact with somebody and one day they're like somebody that they're not normally because maybe they have a headache. Maybe they're going through something that's like really big in their life. Maybe they just got broken up with by a baseball bat and they spent the morning with a bottle of glue adhering their body back together. You just never know. And so don't judge, all right? And so I'm going to continue to judge while I try not to. And let's all do that. It's crazy. We're never going to not judge, but try is what I'm saying, right? I mean, that's the whole thing is sometimes it's like people kind of turn the other cheek and that's what they're commanded to do and tell you had your chance. Is that crazy or what? When we talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, we talk about we have a perfect God who is literally love, right? It's not like God is loving. God is love. Perfect, pure love and light of Jesus Christ. Well, he commands us to kind of, you know, turn our other cheek and tell people they had the chance when it comes to that. He's a little bit harsh when he needs to be, right? I mean, that's how it is, bro. So sometimes people just can't handle the truth, you know? I mean, we hear that sometimes. And I've talked about on past In the Image Clothing Company podcast episodes how I didn't understand what that meant growing up. You know, I'm like, the truth of what? It's, well, the truth. There's only one to everything. It's God. I told you can't handle it, right? Like, sometimes we just got to grow a little bit, man. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, dude, there you go. I mean, right? Sometimes it really is justifiable. Not that we're justifying, but meaning like it's the right thing to do, to throw that phrase, right? And not in the way you throw a boomerang that actually doesn't come back. I think that's, you know, a very misunderstood thing. I thought so, that, you know, traditional Australian boomerangs came back. There's boomerangs that do come back. You can design them that do, but that's not what they were initially intended to do. It was like to get things out of trees in the outback of Australia. So you weren't intending on it coming back to you. It was more of like just a tool, right? Yeah. But anyway, I'm just saying, yeah, sometimes we can throw that phrase at people, but don't like throw the phrase around, because that's what I mean. It's not a boomerang. You throw that phrase in a straight line and you say, you had your chance. You know, yeah. But it's hard, man, because we're human beings and we just don't know what we're doing. None of us at all. Yikes, my ankles. Now, I think we'll get ready to wrap this up because I love it. All right, this is Red the Guitar. My name is Evan Strong. This is In the Image Clothing Company Podcast, episode 128, titled You Had Your Chance. Thank you. Stick around for the poodles. if you are somewhere around Utah and you'd like to come to Poodle Parade events, or if you live across the country or even continent, which, you know, even across the earth, wherever you're at, man, if you want to come to a Poodle Parade event sometime, just check the scheduling on InTheImageClothingCompany.com. Bring your dogs, bro. Bring something to restrain them, slip lead, collar, harness, leash, right? Whatever it comes to being. Just know what you can and can't bring by being specific about each event with your checking of the schedule. Golly. But yeah, stick around for the poodles, bro. It's gonna be huge. Yep. If you just want to know how your body works, because we talk about it here, check out the main side of In The Image Clothing Company. I get into it in depth. In depth. So, yeah. All right, cool. Yeah. Moana, man. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Moana. But I come back to the water, no matter how hard I try. It's funny, man. So many times in my life, I just came back to stuff that this guy right here, bro. Not this specific guitar in the past, but guitar, right? Music in general. There's an episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled I'm a Musician. You just can't leave the stuff that's meant for you to do, bro. You just can't. If you're trying to do God's will, he'll pull you back where you need to be. Yeah. Yeah. Shoot, bro. All right. Cool. Thank you. Check it out, bro. These are the Canvas Denver model by Xero Shoes, Xero. I just show this when I do, just In The Image Clothing Company's shoelace technique, okay? I have no affiliation with Xero, the shoe brand, as of today's date or up until, but I shout them out when I do, and I have for, so many times up until today's date, because they're great. I'm wearing the Denver leathers right now by Xero Shoes, and these are the same thing, but in canvas. But yeah, this is our shoelacing technique, okay? For those of you in visual plus audio, okay, you can just see it. It's just the same all the way up once you do the first crossing of laces, okay? Just, there's a little bit of a visual. I just throw some things like that in there where I do, it's good because we talk about things, but sometimes, because I don't want people to have to go like searching through hundreds of videos to try to be like, oh, he talked about this. He said it's in there somewhere. And you're just like, where is it? You're just like searching through. It's like, nah, it is good to show things, sometimes rather than just like have only one location where you could find it. Just, the credibility, right? Where does the credibility actually come? It comes from, I've been saying the same thing since the founding. The body really only does work the way that we say that it does, and it's not anything to do with us, but we just understand it, right? So just, keep kind of getting, I keep the consistency. It's never going to change, right? The shoelacing technique, where clothing sits, right? These things that are just really what we are as In The Image Clothing Company physically for the body. And so, sometimes I just talk about things in a little bit deeper depth is what I'm really saying, right? How, like at the beginning here, I went into, quite a bit of the anatomy of the shoulder and just a lot of the muscles going into it, and just again, for the credibility, so you know that I know, bro, because you don't got to believe nothing, but I know what I'm talking about. That doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, but I definitely couldn't be 128 episodes into In The Image Clothing Company podcast, and I definitely couldn't be where I am as of today's date within The Image Clothing Company if what I was talking about wasn't true. So there you go, right? It's like how I say I'm gonna be a professional guitarist, right? And I'm so good at guitar, and then sometimes I just gotta like prove. Well, yikes! Careful with that word, but in a sense, prove that I can actually shred guitar. And I did that earlier. Set the guitar down. Just don't do it. I just don't know what to play if I were to play something, you know. Oh, you know what? Check this out. Looking for the rainbow, looking for the rainbow, looking for the rainbow, but I don't know where the rain go. Looking for the rain, bro, looking for the rain, bro, looking for the... What did I say, bro? Because I'm looking for the rainbow, looking for the rain, bro, looking for the rain, but I don't know where the rain go. I'm looking all around. I did a freestyle on the porch of the house that I live just a couple weeks ago, and I titled it Through the Desert. Yeah, that's what it was, but it was like, looking through the desert, looking all around. Looking for the rainbow, looking for the rain, bro, looking for the rain, but I don't know where the rain go. Anyway, the tempo's all over the place right there, and I was just kind of like playing with it, but the freestyle actually turned out crazy that day, dude. I mean, it was like, it seemed like it was like a, you know, it was just really good. If you can still find that somewhere, depending on, you know, when you're hearing this on Indie Image Clothing Company music, or just look up Through the Desert by Evan Strong. I mean, that was something, dude. It was just an entire freestyle, and it was like a 5-minute and something second long song. It was really cool, if I'm saying it. Oh, man. But that's what I mean, you know, is sometimes I just say some things and I don't believe it, bro. But if it lines up, kind of thing, right? So I think that's a beautiful thing, actually, to say before we do wrap this entirely up, okay? I'm gonna say it like this. And I've talked about this and touched on it before, but there's people in my life right now. Keep in mind the timeline of what I'm saying. It's been about 9 months, give or take, since In the Image Clothing Company's founding by me, right? I mean, yeah, okay. Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. There's 4 sides to us as a whole, right? Yeah. Yes. You know, I kind of sat with people pretty, you know, intently at the beginning, you know, when I was first telling people about what I started doing, you know, our shoelacing technique, and just, it has nothing to do with us. We don't own it by any means, but there's only one way to weave a rope across the top of the human foot. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. You're just tying a knot around your foot, dude, and a weave pattern, you know, I mean, when it grips arches inward, and there's so many bones and ligaments and tendons and muscles and workings in there. So this is what I'm saying, right, is I was telling people stuff like this at the beginning, and I was, like, pretty persistent with them, and they wouldn't do it, you know, and where clothing sits, and, you know, things like the dreaded collar seam modification, right, under In the Image Clothing Company. So I got to a point where I'm just like, you know, this is a beautiful example. That's why I'm saying it, you know, justifiably, meaning rightfully so, right, without justifying. I mean, yes, it's just the right thing to do. I got to a point with people in my life that just weren't listening. I was like, you had your chance. I mean, you've still got access to the internet if you do, and In the Image Clothing Company is there, right? The information that I was telling you in person, you can get to through In the Image Clothing Company, anywhere you can find our 5-word name as a whole. But, you know, I stopped talking to the people about it. I mean, if you're not going to listen, you're not going to listen, you know? And God actually says this. He says, well, it's a phrase I've used in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? A testimony against them, where people don't listen to truth, and there's only truth, so you're damaging yourself, right? I mean, there's some people that I really, 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 really spent some dedicated time with, teaching them about the only way the human body could ever work, because there is only one way, and they just didn't listen, and they didn't apply the things, and now it's been, I mean, we'll say at least 9 months, because, I mean, I was talking to people about this stuff before I founded In the Image Clothing Company, right? because I was doing it for, a little while before there was ever like a company to be had. Okay. And then I made that video in the field one day. I don't think I slept the night before, on the 23rd of September, 2024. I was like, yeah, I just basically announced that we're actually a thing now, and that's where we officially had a name, in the Image Clothing Company, and so yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people like that. It's like you had your chance, dude. I mean, I was telling you this stuff, and now what's beautiful about it is it's not like me versus them, but it's truth versus you didn't believe it. And then what? Where do we get nitpicky with what words to use, right? Meaning you just didn't do it, whether they believed it or not, right? They didn't try. I mean, taste and see that the Lord is good, right? I mean, we have to try things. Otherwise, you can say whatever you want, you can believe whatever you want, but if things are real, they're real. If they work, they work. Truth is truth. I mean, it's that simple, right? Really, truly, it is. That's why I say the phrase, it's as obvious as it gets once we see it, okay? Now, here's the thing. Well, that's why God says that we're given eyes to see as disciples of Jesus Christ, right? Yikes. See through all the haze of the worldly things and see the truth underlying it, okay? Hidden mysteries of the kingdom of God, as we say sometimes. I mean, I texted some of my family members, and I sent them, when I first was making videos on the shoelacing technique. Again, I didn't title it In the Image Clothing Company's shoelacing technique at that point, but I was just sending videos to my family. And, I remember sending a video one time, and I wrote on it, hidden mysteries, right? Because God gives us the opportunity to know mysteries of his kingdom. I mean, how many people on the earth wear shoes, with laces that are laced, they just don't operate the only way the human foot does? I mean, it's no kind of opinion, right? I mean, look at this. You just move the upper, and the weave of the rope is just going to react a certain way, right? I mean, it just causes the shoe to be shaped like the foot, and there's no other way to do that. You're tying a knot around the ankle or the top of it, and it's just only going one direction, and there's only one way that's going to be even and work the way that the feet grip arches inward and the ankles stay neutral, traveling up to the tip of the head and the tips of the fingers, right? There's no opinion, so you had your chance, right? It's a beautiful example. Golly, that's amazing. And this is what I mean, where it's nothing to do with me other than using me as a testimony for God. This is crazy, bro. This is what it is, right? I mean, in the Image Clothing Company, dude. Well, even in the Image Clothing Company music, right? Where, again, I was telling people I was a good guitarist, and you don't gotta believe nothing, but they started to try to think I was like making something up because they'd hear me play and they didn't know that I could actually do much of anything. And then, right? I don't know, bro. I love these two chords right here. It's C major shape, and then the one where you just move up a little bit. So you go from here to here, right? And I make a lot of music there. Yeah, I do a lot of picking in those two chords. Like, well, I was just doing it a minute ago, but